can be a little confusing, and it can be daunting, especially for new teachers, for young teachers. And this conversation is an attempt to have an open discussion about it. This conversation is based upon personal experience by the panelists here today, and also by the larger community of yoga teachers. And it is a WICCI KYC initiative, and it is also to help women yoga teachers build and enhance their financial strength. This conversation will be structured around the 5 pointers that we've been sharing on our social media handles. The 5 tips to price your yoga class is what the creative is called, what the pointers are called. And to begin, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Pragya Bhatt, and I'm an author, yoga teacher, and a WICCI Karnataka board member. And today I'm with Sugandha Agarwal of Wellness Sutra, and Anshu Vyas Seetharaman of Body Sculpting and Yoga Therapy.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Guys.
Thank you.
Also, I'd like to, let people know that this is a very open conversation, and we are interested in knowing what you feel about what we are saying, in any feedback that you have, and in anything that you have to add. So please feel free to share your ideas, your comments in the comments. Actually, put it in the comments, and we will try to incorporate that, and that will give us food for thought to refine what we think about this topic as well. So diving right in, let's talk about the first tip that we had, which was to do your market research. Now, this can be very tricky because market research is something that we associate with a very economic kind of term. It's not something that we think about as young yoga teachers, and also because market research itself differs from a yoga studio's market research, for instance, and a yoga teacher, an independent yoga teacher's market research. So, we just wanted to sort of talk about that. Sugandha, you're someone who has, you have a yoga studio called Wellness Sutra. So, from your perspective, tell us what kind of market research should a studio do? What is the importance of it? What do you have to share about this?
Thank you so much, Pragya. So before I started a studio, I was teaching as a freelancer. And when I started my yoga journey, I went to the multiple studios first, and I started attending the classes in the studios, and also attending classes with the individual teachers. And I also see how is their offering and how are they pricing their classes in my locality around like 4 to 5 kilometers of the area. So first thing was attending the classes in different studios and individual teachers, and seeing that how they're pricing their classes. That gave me a fair enough idea that what will be the pricing in my locality for a yoga class, and what is their offering in terms of what kind of classes are they offering. It is a special class, is it a prenatal class, is it and how is the time? Is it like a 1.5 hour class, or it's a 45 minutes class? So all those factors I started researching in and around to understand how the pricing should be for my class. So the factors I feel that someone should consider is the locality, the kind of class you're offering, and is it a studio class, or you're just going and teaching somewhere in a locality, and also the locality, the kind of students you are going to get in that area. So these are the factors very important if you're starting a new class, to rightly price your class and be sustainable in the market.
Right. And an interesting thing is that a lot of us, having been yoga students before we actually became yoga teachers, this is a process you might already be doing. You may already know what kind of classes are there. So, but you just have to keep that in mind, all these factors in mind, when you think about how you would price your classes.
Right.
So Anshu, what about you? Because you were freelancing for a little while before you set up your own enterprise. So what is it that what were your experiences like? What did you do initially?
Yeah, so Pragya, I tried to find out how many classes were happening in the area that I was staying. And like Sugandha said about how much they were charging. So what is the kind of studios that were there? Were there some studios that were run by very experienced teachers or new teachers? So I kind of really got to know the ground very well before I actually started my classes.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's very important, to go to a few classes and just see what is in the market, because otherwise, if you're not doing that, then you're just sort of throwing a dart in the dark. You don't really, properly what is, what kind of pricing you can keep. Also, what I'd like to actually add to this is that pricing in itself is a very fluid thing. It keeps changing. Much like your yoga practice, your pricing will also keep changing, because I know from speaking to a lot of people who own studios is that, they've tried one kind of pricing structure, and the structure is not just, what you're charging for the class, but it is also, let's say, what you're charging for cancellations, and, everything that goes into the fees for a class. So I've spoken to a lot of people, and they've had to try different kind of structures before they have found one that actually works. So it is okay, I think, initially, and that's a luxury actually when you're a young teacher, to make that sort of mistake and just to sort of explore. It just gives you that little bit of leeway to find what fits. And once you find that fit, you'll know it, because you will see that people are responding to that pricing better. It's easier to sort of convert students. So I think one thing is just keep in mind that it is something that's very fluid. It's not written in stone, and you will have to try a few pricing structures before you find one that suits you. Yeah, before we hit upon one that works. Great. Anything else you guys would like to add to that? Because otherwise we can go to tip 2. And if in the audience,
I like to say something. So, so I want to say that when I was trying to set up my class, I was also moving from one locality to another. So I really needed to know what's happening in that. So I was new to that area, and my only way of understanding the market was to do this visit to the various studios and try out a few classes.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. That's priceless. If you actually move to a new locality, or even just in your locality, just to go to different teachers classes and see what they're doing, and sort of try to include that in your market research. Yeah, I think that's wonderful.
True, Pragya, as you said, being fluid and bring an open mind to change the pricing is very important. Don't be rigid to the mindset that this is my pricing and I'm not going to change it for anybody. That may not work for a new teacher. So be very open to the ideas and the inputs from your student as well at the same time.
We must be flexible in our bodies and in our pricing structures. Yeah. All right. Okay. So let's go to tip 2. Tip 2 was, avoid pricing yourself too high or too low. So Sugandha, I know you have a personal anecdote about this, when you were starting. So would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, so when I started off, I was a young teacher, and I wanted students, and I wanted to really establish myself. And I thought, okay, if I have a low pricing, I will get more students, and I can really build my student on that. But it was a mistake actually, and I learned from a mistake that if you really go on a low pricing, from there you are not going to get more students. You're just students are going to be same, but from there to pick up and sustain in the yoga world will be very difficult for you. So when I was pricing low, my sustainability as a person was getting challenged. I was not able to sustain as per my living, because every yoga teacher, we are yoga teachers, but we are also earning for our to live in the world and to have a proper system. So
right.
For that, I felt that pricing low was a mistake, and later on it was difficult for me to change my pricing, and it took me a year and a half to come to the pricing which I should be having as a yoga teacher. What I'm worth of as a yoga teacher. So when you are starting off, know your worth. Don't think that you are not worth this much and you should be going on the low pricing to gain more customers or more students. Just price intelligently, and you will definitely have students if your practice is good and you are giving your 100% to your student as a teacher. That's all.
So in fact, we have a question. Interested to know from Shanta Sanya Chandramani. Interested to know how much is the low price? What is a low price?
You can, if you are going in and around your locality, I'll just give you example. And let's say everybody is charging 2,000 for 12 classes, and you go and start charging 1,000, saying that, okay, I will gain more students because I'm charging just 1,000 for 12 classes. That's like 50% less of what everybody else is charging. But that doesn't mean that you'll gain more students, because student will anyways come if you are a good teacher and if they are getting benefited from what you are giving back to them.
Right. So the low price would actually depend on the average price in your locality.
Correct.
So in a smaller town, a low price will be significantly different from the low price in a bigger city, or in a certain area in a bigger city. So
it's fluctuating, it's fluid. We cannot just say that 1,000 is low or 2,000 is way too high.
Right.
It's
Right. Yeah.
Depending on different factors and where you are actually right now.
Right. Right. So Anshu, what would you like to say about this? Like, avoid pricing yourself too high or too low. What were your sort of experiences initially?
Yeah, so I agree with Sugandha here that you shouldn't price yourself too low, and neither should you price yourself too high, because if you price yourself too low, then there are chances that, somewhere down the line, a month into the classes, you're going to begin to feel very sorry for yourself because you've sacrificed other things to become a yoga teacher. And then it's going to eat into you, and it's not going to make you happy. And if you're not a happy person yourself, you're not going to bring any contentment and peace to your students. So it's very important, therefore, to price yourself right. And like, I've had this experience where I was doing a corporate class earlier, and where they were charging very less to their employees, the corporate, or they were subsidizing. So I was looking at the same kind of a setup. I imagined that I would also have like 100 students if I started on my own, and therefore I should charge them less. But it didn't happen that way, because when you have a private studio, sometimes you have only less than a dozen students. So then you're not going to break even. So you have to keep that in mind also, because now when you're on your own, you're paying a studio rental, and you have other things to sustain yourself for. And so it doesn't work to price yourself less. So that's my opinion. Right. So you really need to weigh the pros and cons and then decide.
Right. And so I've been actually looking at the economic aspects of this, of, let's say, because a class is ultimately a product that you have in the market. And through my research, I've actually discovered that markets are the great equalizers. Any product, not just a yoga class, but if you look at any product across the board, like just like, let's say, a pack of biscuits, anything which is priced low or too high for a particular target audience, markets have a way of eliminating that product. It is not just in yoga class, it's anywhere, it's in any product. If anything is priced too low, it is undervalued. If anything is priced too high for a particular audience, for a particular strata, markets, they will not get that the kind of consumers that they want. And eventually, no matter how good you are as a teacher, if you are not positioned for that price for a particular customer base, you will just languish away. So that is something that we actually have seen in terms of studios as well. There were many studios who thrived at a particular point in time, and as soon as they increased the prices, then then they were no longer in the market. They were no longer in the competition, for consumers. So we have to remember that pricing is very tricky. So market research goes along with this. Find out what your target audience is, find out what other teachers are charging, and then try to price yourself within that range. That's just pure economics. Pricing yourself too high doesn't really mean that you are actually offering. It might not mean that you're offering anything unique or anything very different from whatever's there. There might not be any takers for that, in fact. So
right.
So that is like, you need to really operate in a manner that you are providing a product to the market, and be very intelligent about your pricing. So yeah, like I said, if any of you has any questions, or if you want to say something and contribute to the conversation, please do so. We're looking at the comments as we're having this discussion. So let's move on to point 3 then. Okay, always discuss the fees before enrollment. This seems very intuitive, but having been through this myself, like having gone from a corporate setup to freelancing, I know how difficult it is to sort of talk about your pricing, to say that this is what I charge. Sometimes we don't have the vocabulary for that. It is a very difficult and a very uncomfortable conversation to have for a lot of us. Like, okay, you have to pay me this much. It's something that, when you come from a corporate setup, you're just uncomfortable having these conversations. So I have gone through that. Sugandha, do you have any tips about that? Because it happens more than we would like to admit. Whether it's because people are not taking you seriously, there's so many students who will just sort of want to try like 5 classes and then they disappear, so have you had any experiences like that? And anyone on the panel, in the conversation right now, have you ever experienced anything like that? Okay, I have gone through this. Okay, Meenakshi B.
This is very common in the yoga world, Pragya. Coming from a corporate background myself, I had faced a big challenge asking people for every month, asking for the fee and reminding them every time that, okay, this is the end of the month. I also need money. Come on, you have to pay. Yeah. So it was challenging initially, and the reminders, it comes to a point where you don't want to really keep on telling them, okay, pay. And that's where I found a system. I put up a software for myself, and where it really helped me, because initially everything was on WhatsApp, and that's where I was chasing everybody end of the month, and maybe 10th, the date is gone and people are not paying. Maybe after a month or 2, they are not paying also. That also used to happen. So the system really helped me, because now everything is on the system, and I don't have to really go around them asking for fee, and they have to, if they want to attend, they pay first and then come for the class. Josna has to say something. It's interesting to hear from her. Yeah, Josna, you can unmute yourself and let us know. Are you able to unmute?
Jyotsna has raised her hand. So Jyotsna, you could just put it in the comments. Okay, Meenakshi B. She's saying, but as in Shole's dialogue, Ghoda ghas se dosti kar lega to khayega kya? And yeah, and that's a great way of putting it. Yeah, and it is, and I suppose this is something that becomes more easy as going forward. Initially it's a very difficult conversation to have, but like yogasanas, like you the more you do them, the easier they become. So this is also a conversation that you just have to sort of keep having, and it becomes easier. Or like Sugandha, you said, put up a system in place.
So Meenakshi's point, I remember a lot of friends and families, they want to come and attend the classes, but you can't tell them, okay, come and pay. And then how do you really entertain them? And having a system, a proper system really helps that way. So.
Right.
So Jona, you can.
Yeah, so I wanted to share this. So a lot of people reach out to you and then they say, oh, I'm interested in the class, and they confirm a spot with you, especially if you're doing one-on-ones, and then they just tell you in the last minute that, oh, I'm sorry, I can't make it. I'll pay you before I join, but then they back out from it. So then I realized I have to put a system in place and tell them, you need to pay me to book your slot.
Yeah.
And I've lost out on other students because I haven't gotten paid. And then so I put up a cancellation policy and, a refund policy, and some of them want to pause their classes. They say, oh, I need to travel for a week or 2 weeks. So can I pause my classes? How does that work?
Right.
So I had to put everything in a policy, put it on my website, and tell them that this is how we're going to go ahead with it. Set a payment date for every month and tell them that if I don't receive my payment by so and so date, then we'll have to wait until we can start classes.
Right.
So it's not easy, but I guess sometimes it's difficult conversations to have, but it's just easier when it's in writing. Then it removes the awkwardness of having to discuss it over a phone call.
That's wonderful. Just put it up on a website, point them to that website. Right.
Yeah, anything, a website or a social media platform, whatever you have as your presentative, just put it out there and then send that to the people. It's more the communication.
Yeah. What about you, Anshu? Anshu, you also, you were in a corporate sort of setup, and yeah.
Yeah, so I've had a different experience. So I have this student who doesn't keep too well. She has health issues, and she likes to wait till the end of the month to really see how many classes she's attended, whether she's done, because I have this system where people pay for either 8 or 12 or 16. And she likes to be sure that she's paying exactly for that amount, you know, for the number of classes that she's attended because of her health issues, and I allow that to her. So for health issues, you have to make certain, you know, like you have to allow people to be flexible with the way they pay their fees, and that works for me and it works for her. So that's how I do it.
Yeah, I think, yeah, and that is, I think, one of the advantages of being an independent freelance teacher, that, you know, they come to you because there's a degree of flexibility. Otherwise, they could just go to a studio and, you know, and have that impersonal sort of thing that happens in a studio. Whereas maybe with you, there's a personal touch that you bring to it. And yeah. Okay, there are many questions and very interesting questions, but I'm wondering, we have only 2 more points left. Should we just complete the points and then take the questions after that?
Yeah, that would be good, Pragya. Let's complete this point.
Yeah, let's just complete it. But guys, please keep the questions coming. They make us think, and I think they're very interesting and relevant to the audience that we have right now. Yeah. So let's go on to tip 4, but I think we're going to come back to tip 3 after we're done. But let's go on to tip 4. Yes, don't worry about losing students. And all of us, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that every single one of us has operated from that space at some point in time. That's just how it is. So I know I have, initially, I think everything is driven by that, oh, what if I lose these students? So Sugandha, how did you, what is your approach to this?
Yeah, there are months where you will have very less students, and there are times when you will have less students and you will lose them, but you will gain them later on. You just have to be consistent with your quality. I just believe that if you're maintaining a good quality, you should not be driven your classes by that fear. Just keep doing your work and keep gaining the knowledge, and your knowledge will pay you off in the long run. So,
right.
Yeah. So,
what about you, Anshu? What do you have to say about this?
Yeah, I agree with Sugandha here, that you need to really, make sure that you're doing what you need to do, like, learning more and bringing that quality into the class. And whether it means like doing a course or going and attending a workshop with some other senior teacher and bringing that onto the board, that's what I believe in also. And I think all the trainers that I know in my circle, and you also, Pragya, and several others like Luvena and everyone, we all do that. We keep on going back to the, like they say, the drawing board or to the yoga mat to learn ourselves and then bring that experience. And in fact, if you keep doing that with your students, they look forward to it. And when I announced to my class that I was doing a course, some of them turned around and said, oh, wow, we're so lucky because you're going to bring that to the class, so that's nice.
Yeah. And I agree with you, Sugandha, like fear should not be a driving factor anywhere in any industry. So if you have people, let's say workers working, let's say in a factory, and they're driven by fear and instead of motivation, that will come out in the quality of whatever you're providing. So fear of losing students should definitely not be there, and that's a very ideal thing. Like it's very idealistic to think, like, well, let me operate from that point. Like I am not scared of losing students because we all are afraid of losing students. Eventually you just get used to it. You understand that you lose some, you win some. So the way, like I have, from very early on, one of my teachers, I think, told me that like a clock, just because no one's looking at it, it doesn't stop telling time, but eventually, you need the time, and the clock is where you go for the time. So you will, go back to the clock. So just like a clock doesn't lose time or stop giving you time, because you're just not looking at it 24 hours a day. Similarly, you need to keep working. And I think in yoga that's more true than in other professions, that you are sort of anything you do, even if you attend someone else's class, if you go for a workshop, you are sort of building up, you're doing your work. That is your work. So I think just to sort of keep going, not let that demotivate you, It might scare you, but not to let that demotivate you and affect and impact the kind of teaching and the kind of work that you're doing. I think that is what we should focus on more.
Yeah, so coming back to the first point, Pragya, where we said price your classes right in the first go, that will help you not drive your classes from the fear, because if you have a decent earning and you're able to sustain, because you know that in initial year you're not going to make as much money as an experienced teacher, but whatever you need as a sustainable person, if you're able to make that much, you'll be at least content, and you know that this I am fine in whatever space I am in right now.
Right. Nice.
But we have to also keep our own growth in mind. Like if every other industry is growing or people in other professions are growing, we also need to see where were we last year or the year before? Where are we today? We can't stagnate ourselves. So we need to therefore, make sure we need to kind of give incentives to ourselves, and how do we get that? We get that only by increasing the fee maybe on a yearly basis or whatever.
Right. Yeah. In fact, that brings us to the fifth tip.
Next point about increment.
Yeah, which is establish a system to increase your fees, because after having worked for so long and knowing so many yoga teachers, I've realized that increasing the fees sometimes tends to just be like random. People just have very interesting ideas about, well, that person has increased by like this much, so I should also do that, or so it tends to be very random, and it leaves students feeling a little like, whoa, what just happened, So we really recommend having a system, because that sort of you get a buy-in for the student also. Whenever you're telling them about your fees, you say, well, this is my system of increasing the fees, because this is not going to be the fees forever. So we like when we were discussing this, Sugandha, you were talking about like how you have a particular percentage, and you sort of tell the students that this is how it is, so they understand that there's a system, and they're mentally prepared for it. Would you like to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, so every if you see in a normal IT world, there is an increase of 5 to 10% of anybody's salary, right? So if you go to the so that's like a good figure to increase the fee. Don't go to 20%, 25%, just like that. Go from between 5 to 10%, and that's acceptable to your students. And you just have to understand their psychology, that because you are a product, you are a service, you are if you are a student, how will you feel if somebody goes and increase the fees to 20% or 25%, just like that? So between 5 to 10% is a good number to increase if you between a year or two, depending upon how much you have started, where you've started, and
right. What do you think, Anshu?
Yeah, I think so too. So like I was saying earlier, that if you go for a course and you invested money in that, so that's one reason to increase, because if you know for sure what you're going to bring to the class, so there has to be something new that you're offering your class, maybe a new way to meditate, or some new approaches to like break down the asana and teach it, or whatever, some new learning skills. If you bring that's justified, and also a yearly increment is justified. And like for instance, I didn't increase in the pandemic year. It's almost 2 years now we've had this pandemic, from March 2020. So now for January 2021, I'm definitely going to look at a 10% increase. So I think the regular increment is very much advised.
So I really like what both of you are saying. Like Sugandha, you're saying that, okay, like look at any other product in the market, there is an increment. But now, Anshu, what you're saying is that, the quality of your classes is also improving year on year. Like, because you as a practitioner are improving, and you're constantly trying to figure out new ways of teaching things, and your teaching is improving. So effectively, the product, you as a product, you are improving as a teacher. And as long as students are cognizant of that, like as long as a student feels that, yes, I am getting I'm getting services worth the price that I'm paying, it's good. So that sort of also ties into the idea that your pricing must be right. If you keep increasing your quality year on year, yet you're still charging like you were when you started, You know, there's again that mismatch in what you're providing and your perception, people's perception of you in the market. And that again will, in the long run, does not work. So if you look at, if you do believe that, you know, you are putting in the effort, you are bringing something new to the class, if month on month, you're teaching, the quality of your teaching, the classes are improving, then it is justified to increase your prices. You know, it will be justified. And if you are honest with your students about that, if you are very transparent about the pricing, that it's not just random, that I spoke to my friend and they have increased this much and therefore I'm also going to increase this much. I mean, as long as your students know that there is a thought process and a logical process, then that sort of also strengthens the bond that you have with your students, because they understand you're going to your teacher and they're coming to you, and that sort of closes that cycle of the student-teacher relationship. So yeah, I think, yeah, it's great to have that some sort of logical method of incrementing the fees.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a lot of messages. So can I just start reading the messages, and let's just have a little bit of conversation on that also. Okay, Ritu Agarwal, some classes may be already established and running very well in your area, and you are a new teacher trying to get a foothold in your area. Should you be pricing lower than them or at par with them so as to compete and sustain in the market? Very nice. It's a very relevant question. Who wants to take this?
Yeah, so I'll go for this one. So if you're already aware that there are other classes and in your area and they're charging an X amount, I don't think you should price yourself too low, because that's like trying to get their clients, you know. So it's not fair then, because it's better to be at par, almost at par, because then you're making an announcement. Okay, there are 2 other teachers in this area. Here I'm the 3rd one, and instead of that, you should mention what you're offering different. Like if you're good with children, you can do children's yoga, or you can do prenatal, or you can do therapy yoga or something like that. So it's nice to give your product a new look rather than price yourself too down, because then you're cannibalizing and you're trying to take their clients just because, you know, you're pricing yourself too low. That's what I would say.
Yeah, it's malpractice to put in this sort of competition in the market.
Yeah.
Any product you put in the market to sort of you know, veer the consumer towards you, there's a term for that actually, and it's considered malpractice. But I think a very important thing in this question is, you are a new teacher trying to get a foothold. Now, if you are a new teacher, it is a given that you will not price yourself as much as a more experienced teacher, because experience counts for something. So what you will do is price yourself in accordance with how much a new teacher will price. And you should not look at that as being less just because a senior teacher is charging a lot more. You know, there are also slabs of teachers. You know, a senior teacher will price themselves a lot more than you. A more experienced teacher will charge more. So you have to look at it in that way. It should, pricing yourself low doesn't mean that it's not the same as a senior teacher. You might be pricing yourself low versus them, but look at other teachers and other studios in the area who are who are also new. How much are they charging? You have to look at it like that. It's not really just looking at like whatever is established already, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Pragya, there is this question was always in my head also, that there are a lot of established studios, and what is going to happen if I charge as much as they are charging? Will I have students, or will I not have students? This is a very valid and relevant question as a new yoga teacher. And what I've realized is that this is not a game. So you know what you're offering. You know very well where you stand in your teaching and in your practice. So it's a very internal voice which comes to you, that that voice will tell you that, okay, this is where you are in your practice, and that practice is what you're going to give to a student. Listen to this voice and then charge your students. Just don't have to worry about what's happening around and getting into that state of stress and anxiety and not having students around.
So also I'd like to tell everybody that I'm looking at real numbers. I'm conducting some sort of research on the business of yoga, and I'm looking at some sort of putting a number to these ideas that we have. So I'm open to having these conversations also, like how much is the studio charging? If you can actually reach out to me personally and tell me, well, this studio is charging this much for teachers who have this much experience. I have this much experience, and where should I start? So maybe this is not the forum for that, but please reach out to me with specific numbers, and and then we can attempt to sort of give you more concrete advice about this. But Sugandha, what you just said, there's another question. When a fresh teacher starts a class, she doesn't get that kind of response. People would rather go to a well-known teacher. How do we go about that? Now, my initial response is, well, why should people not go to a well-known teacher? The well-known teacher has worked hard to get where she is. She has also put in like maybe a decade more of experience than you have. People will go to her. But there will always be people for your classes. If you have to be, like Sugandha was saying, very open about what you have to offer. You are a fresh teacher, you're a new teacher, you have more patience probably than an older teacher. Your pricing is a very important factor. You might not be pricing yourself too low, and you're not definitely pricing yourself as the well-known teacher, but there is a price point which will appeal to other practitioners who are not looking at a well-known teacher, who are looking for something that you're offering. So look at it like that. Do not be in competition with like a well-known teacher. You might be a fast driver, but you're not Schumacher, and you're not looking at being him. He was him, and a well-known teacher is a well-known teacher.
Yeah, and well-known teacher might be targeting a different kind of audience, and you can think of targeting a different kind of audience. The people who have never been to yoga world and they want to expose to the yoga, they want to go to the new teacher, because new teacher is in the same space as they are in that they're in the same mindset. You have just started your journey, and you know what they're experiencing as a new person who wants to come to the yoga journey. So you will be better person to understand and maybe able to help them out better. So have that mind.
About a new
That's
teacher.
why I was suggesting you can do niche. You can do child yoga or prenatal or older people. You can try to enter like that and then broaden your base and go to general classes. So this way you'll also get some more experience and get to know that area where you live and get to know some more people, and they'll recommend other people, and 6 months down the line you can say, hey, I'm also starting a general class and this is how I'm going to price myself.
I mean, it's a journey, and younger teachers are fresh, they have more energy, they're willing to try new things. It's just a whole different class that you're offering. It's a whole different product that you're offering, and you should look at maximizing that.
My teacher used to say, don't reject an opportunity. Whatever it is, just take it, just accept it as a challenge and go for it. So being it as a substitute teacher, or just filling in without not for much money in the start, or just going and teaching in a small apartment, anything, just take it, and then that add on to your experience, and that's where you're going to build up every day.
One day and someone will be like, okay, why should people just want to go to her? So
one day you'll be at there, and then somebody will come and ask the same question. So just enjoy your journey.
Okay, Sangeeta Agarwal. Many people, just for inquiry point of view, call and say they're looking for a yoga teacher and will let you know. What I do, I tell them you have to pay in advance for the month, then only you are enrolled, and then class starts for every month. Okay, so this is an advice about how to have that. So during the inquiry phase itself, just tell the student that this is the process, that you have to enroll first. Enrollment means pay me, and then you're welcome to the class. Okay. Shanta,
I just want to add on to that, Pragya. There can be different approach to this. That's a very good approach, because you are telling that I'm not somebody I am established, and if you want to come to me, pay and come. And there can be ways that you want to just tell them, okay, there is a free trial class, but once you take a trial class, you have an option to enroll. So you need to decide what approach works for you. Be flexible on that and see what works for your students, and then decide on that.
Okay. Shanta Sanya, I do not know how to make myself known as a yoga teacher. Any tips? Currently, I just have one-on-one classes with a couple of students. Okay. I think that you have one-on-one classes is great. When you start and you already have people who are willing to say, okay, I want time exclusively with you, that's great. But how do you make yourself known as a yoga teacher? Social media. That is, the biggest vice of our times, but also the biggest boon of our times. Start having that conversation about yourself on social media. That's how I think most of us started. I mean, that's how I started, just putting up poses. And if you look at my amateurs, all of my posts from when I started are still up on my Instagram page. And if you look at that, you can see how what an amateur I was. And over time, it's sort of like documented my journey as well. So I personally feel that social media is the best way. When I started, Facebook was also a big thing. Over time, we've seen Facebook has sort of declined in popularity and Instagram has taken over. So now I'm on Instagram a lot. I get a lot of people through my website as well. So that's what I would say. What about you, Anshu, Sugandha? What do you have to add to that?
Yeah, social media is a very big plus, especially in today's world, because it's all driven by technology, and we can't deny the presence of technology in this era. So we have to accept it and live with it. So having a presence on social media and word of mouth. So you keep telling the friends around that I am running these classes, and you may get 1 or 2 students. If you're getting 2 or 3 students, start with it, and you slowly start getting. Don't wait for I'll have 5, 10 students and then I'll start the class. That's my advice. So if you're getting few people, start, and slowly you start reaching to your friends and family, and that's where it starts spreading the word. Also, if you are somebody who can put a small YouTube videos, that gives the idea to the people that what kind of teacher you are, because if they want to go and see your offering, they have some reference to it. So anything, if you are somebody who's okay for the Instagram and Facebook, then go for that. If you're somebody who can put on YouTube videos, go for that. And that's where you build up your repository of information for your students, basically.
Yeah, so I would also say if you want to do online classes, then social media is really, really good. But if you're still doing offline and you want to start small, then you could also do posters in your area. Like you can talk to the local grocery or some club, and you can put up posters and you can get people from there. That's something we should not overlook, these small ways of reaching out, banners and posters and word of mouth, of course.
What I'd mentioned in our previous conversation, Sugandha, and that, by the way, that conversation is actually available on the WICCI YouTube page. I spoke about how when I started, I actually made these postcard size posters, and we went around not Aga Basali Road, that Ali Asgar Road, and I actually put a postcard in everyone's mailbox under their gates and stuff. And then I got 1 student, and I went through that entire road and all around it, and I took my sister with me, and I got 1 student. But that was my start, and and it's only gotten better since then. So I love that, this idea, Anshu, that put it up in the clubs, in the local grocery market.
Yeah,
you never know, you never know. But that's you really have to work hard initially to just get the word out.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we have another question from Jyotsna. Would love to hear more about class pricing in the online space and for the international market. What benchmarks do we price these classes lower than in-person classes?
You know what, when I started online classes, people did ask that it's an online class, why do we have to pay as much as offline? And I had only one answer: the effort is same, the energy is same, and the time I'm spending is same. So it's not going to be lower than offline classes. So yeah, you do get such inquiries, and you just have to justify that, because you're not putting any less effort than offline classes. Only thing is that you're not traveling, and that's the only change. But it's the same time, energy, effort, everything, and the money also, because you have to buy for the Zoom subscription. Then if you're putting in your software, your laptop, your iPad, whatever, so you are spending money on all those things. So justify for your online classes as much as you charge for the offline classes. For the international market, I did some research in the start, and that's where I come to a pricing. You cannot be at in the international market, people charge $25 and all for an hour of class. So probably that's, if you're doing online classes, you can just justify it. There's no number here, but
Yeah.
you can come to a point saying that this is how much I will charge if you want to attract to more international students.
Right. I mean, and in fact, I had I had a conversation with one of my international students the other day, and she she started with me like I think around the pandemic, yes, and she did her we've been operating on the same price for the last 2 years, and all of a sudden I get a call about, well, I've done my research, and like in Tokyo, the classes, these group classes in the studio online classes, they're just priced this much, and this person doesn't speak English very well, so I'm not really sure she could, this is what I think that she was, like in Tokyo, it's only $16 or $18, and I think that, from what she was telling me, it seems to me that in Tokyo also, people started to decrease prices for their online classes, because that's what it seemed to me that she was saying, that like even studios have now decreased their prices, and well, you're charging so much more. And I told her yes, because good teachers have a particular price.
Again, you're slightly breaking
and
up.
we are not in competition with that that a teacher commands a freelance. Okay, is it better now?
Yeah.
Better now? Can you
Yeah.
hear me?
Yeah, better.
Okay. So the way I explained it to her was that, I have my own structure, because I have been teaching, whether it's which is online, offline, in Tokyo, in Europe, or wherever it is, and that the studios have a different pricing structure. So from that experience, I would say that your pricing for your international students shouldn't vary so much, depending on the kind of experience you've had. If you've had a decade of experience, if you're very thorough with what you're teaching, you should charge them at just like you would a private student. I don't think that you should. We should also not take advantage just because someone is logging in from somewhere else. You should not really. Sometimes I feel teachers get into this thing like, how much can I charge this person just because where they're from? I understand that there is a lot of because they earn more, or they live in a place where they can afford more. But as a teacher also, as a product, there is an upper limit. It's not sort of fair to price something more for someone just because of where they live. So you have to sort of maintain that. It is, at the end of the day, the pricing is not about where that person is staying. The pricing is about what you bring to the table. And if the moment they find out that you have charged them a lot more than what you're charging other students, that is something that you don't want in your experience. That is something that is not then that gets around. That's something that you would rather avoid. So it's very good to be transparent. You can maybe charge them what you charge to your personal clients. You can say that, that if you have 3 people joining in for a group class from, let's say, the US or something, charge them as much as you would your private clients, but it cannot be that like significantly more. There cannot be that much of a difference. No, I would not suggest that. People might be doing that, but I think in the long run, it is not working.
Yeah, it questions your credibility, and when they find out, they will question you, and you will lose your credibility there. So definitely, you need to be very mindful.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a good point. That's a good point, and it's good. Like, it's to have fair practices. It's good to follow fair practices.
And eventually, your pricing will increase based on your experience, based on how much work you're putting in. Your pricing will increase. It will just, you will get that confidence, and it will increase, and then eventually that is the kind of clientele that you will attract. So it will just get better, provided you are putting that work in, and that's a whole different conversation.
And to add on to that, Pragya, if you are pricing them fairly, you have a chances of getting more students as well, because that's where they will go and talk in their circle, and you can gain more students there. So
right. Okay, so there's another question about this. Meenakshi B, how do we price for A, group class and B, personal session? Fixed price per session or fixed price per month? How does this work? I am totally new to pricing. I had no idea what price to ask for when I was asked by a Singapore resident for personal training and yoga. The classes have already started from November 1st, 2021. So I think a lot of this we've covered already. Meenakshi, anything more? Like, is there anything that we have not covered in this that you would like us to answer or to discuss a little more? Fixed price per session or fixed price per month? This is totally open. Across the board, we are seeing that people have different pricing kind of strategies. If you're a studio, it'll be usually per month. If you're an individual freelance teacher, usually we do it per, like, by the class. It just gives more flexibility to a student and to you as a teacher as well. So you might have to, you might register for a session or a last minute workshop, and you still have that flexibility to go and not worry about making up the classes and stuff like that. So there are pros and cons to both, but through like the numerous conversations I've had with many people, I've seen the studios tend to price fixed per month, and freelancers prefer by the class. Yeah,
and if you're charging by the class, you can put a timeline. Like, let's say there are 8 classes a month, and the person is not completing 8 classes in a month. You can say you complete it in 2 months. Don't give them the flexibility to do it in a 3 months or so, 4 months. Then they will turn. So you need to have some policies, like Josna said. Having a policy and rules are always good whenever you are getting to that kind of structure.
Okay. I had no idea what price to ask for when I was asked by a Singapore resident for personal training in yoga. So again, this is a question about what if someone is not in India? They are, they're abroad. What if these people are? In my personal experience, like a lot of the people who contact me internationally do it from references. And they may not tell you. They may not tell you that so and so referred me to you, but it may be an existing student. So my best practice has always been to charge them the same, because your private classes will be a little more expensive than your group classes, maybe even a lot more expensive than your group classes. So the best practice and the most honest thing that I have seen, the most transparent thing that I myself have practiced, is that you tell them the same price, because you never know. I mean, they might just have a conversation with their friend who referred them, and then your credibility again goes for a toss. So these prices, they keep going up. Your prices will keep going up. So you will have that chance to sort of become more confident and then to command a higher price. Yeah. Okay, Jayashree Raghavan has the same query. How should the pricing be in an online scenario? So I think all of us agree that it should be pretty much the same as offline. I would like to add to this, though, that like a lot of teachers, and I heard this through many students, a lot of teachers started slacking off. Even when they even teachers during because it was online, they were like, okay, now I have to look at the students. They don't demonstrate. For them it becomes something. I think the coronavirus just sort of, because we were all at home, maybe we got lazy, but a lot of the quality of the teaching went down. Okay, and that's when teachers did see an exit from their yoga classes, and other teachers saw their numbers increasing. And the reason for that was that there were teachers as well who could handle that online teaching, who put in that effort for online teaching. So it goes back to that you have to work, that you have to give that, the scenario has changed. Now everything is online. Now, how do you not keep teaching like you were doing offline? It is not enough to say just it's not enough to just say turn your foot out and then move on. You have to sort of say turn it out so that it faces this. You really have to explain a lot more. It becomes more energy consuming. So all the teachers I spoke to, they were the ones who actually rose up to this challenge of online teaching. And if you did not, I'm sorry to say that many teachers did not, because maybe online was just not their thing. And we saw many teachers saying, I'm not going to teach online, So should it be the same? Yes, if you have stepped up to the challenge of online teaching, yes, by all means, charge the same amount, because your effort, your energy, it's the same, and sometimes even more, I'd say, in an online scenario. I mean, I ended up getting so many more props because I had to, now you're just, you're just talking and talking and talking and then demonstrating, and it's just takes a lot. Okay. So I would really say keep it the same and put in that same amount of work, if not more. Shanta Samaya. So is this 5% or 10% increment per yearly basis?
Yeah, I like to add something here. So with online classes, what happens is that, can you hear me? Yeah, you're constantly going between the mat to the camera, and you're like trying to look at them doing the yoga rather than in an offline class where you can just stand and still be able to see what everyone is doing. Here you need to go close and you need to zoom in, and so there's a lot more walking up and down, and so there's a lot more work. And like Pragya said, she finds herself talking all the time. I find myself talking all the time, and times your mouth goes completely dry because you're just constantly, moving and talking. So it's a lot of effort. And I think this lady's question was how much. So if you're asking us to quantify, I think the answer would be like what Pragya said, same as what you would charge offline. So if you're in, if you depends on your experience again, if you have 2 years experience or 10, you'll definitely charge differently. So just go by that rather than us having to quantify, exactly how much you should charge.
Also, has put in a very important comment. Also, the education involved increases market value of the team. So this is true, of course. The more you invest in your education, the more market value increases. And also, like, exploring more teachers, other classes. And I saw that these were the teachers who, rose to the challenge of teaching online, just because they themselves were so involved in going out and learning and, making the most of the time. They did not like sit back and say, well, now everything is online and they themselves kept going and, pursuing other teachers and knowledge. And, we could actually see that. So it's true also, the education involved increases market value of the teachers. So the more classes you take, the more your market value. So that's another incentive to go and look for teachers, hunt down teachers.
We have Dr. Yashwini Raj. She has raised her hand, so maybe we can let her speak.
Hello everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So my question is, how about pricing from moving from a small town to a city when you have students from there as well and new students now in the same class?
Anshu, you maybe you're.
Yeah. So hi. So my situation was a little similar because I moved from a very densely populated area to an area which was not so densely populated in terms of, like from somewhere where there were many apartments to somewhere there were independent houses. So there were obviously lesser number of people in that square kilometer radius. So then I realized that I need to, it's also the way those people live, their lifestyle was different. So I needed to charge differently then because of, here I was in a different area, and I was going to get much lesser students here than I was going to get in that densely populated area. So I had to kind of think like that and price myself that way. Does that answer your question?
Not really, ma'am.
I'll just add to this.
Yeah, Sugandha will add to this. Yeah.
I am right now in a very small town from last 2 months, and I go to classes here, and the classes are very less priced here. And when I'm in Bangalore, definitely when I go to classes, they are highly priced. And it's difficult to justify to a small town people that high price classes, what you can charge. But when I go to the quality of the classes in the small town, it is way different from what I get in Bangalore. So if you are you are adding, you have a two kind of community. One is small town and one is like a big city. What you can do is come to a midpoint. If you were charging, I'm just giving example. Let's say we're charging them 1,000 rupees per month, and the 2000 for the big city, you can come to a midpoint saying 1500, that I will charge both of them 1500 and see if that works out for them. And then you justify that them with the quality you are providing in terms of classes. And I believe if you have a good quality, because small town, I'm not saying everywhere, but most of them do not have the kind of quality what you have in cities like Bangalore. So you can justify your quality and then say that this is why I'm charging this much, though the other studios in a small town are charging less. Does that answer your question, Doctor?
Yeah. Yes. Also, you know, the students you start out with will it's not necessary that they will be your students forever, because you teaching, your teaching is improving. You're just more on learning, spending more on teachers, you know, and big town is more expensive. So overall, you know, you will improve, and so your prices will have to increase. And so those students, eventually it is also market. So those not, you know, then perhaps you're not them, you know. So that bit of thing, you know, when you increase the prices, you will see studios also see a lot of students exiting, but then students come in as well. It's okay. Okay. Meenakshi B, question 2. Kindly share your experience as a teacher of performing yoga in a studio space versus online yoga, including differences in the two modes. Also, any experience from the participants on these two modes will be appreciated. I think we've answered this question. Meenakshi B. Yeah, okay, we have. Now, okay, Shanta Sanya, would be also nice to offer a trial class. Yes, a lot of people offer trial classes to people who are interested. Okay. Okay, Shanta Sanya again. I'm not savvy on Instagram though. Pricing for one-on-one per class, 75 minutes per class. Okay, specifics. Pricing for one-on-one per class, if it's a 75-minute per class. I think, I mean, that again depends on what is your experience like, you know, what, how long have you been teaching? What are you bringing to the table? So, you know,
is it any special class, therapy class, or it's a general class? You can just decide on that, and anything between, I don't want to put it a number, but yeah.
Yeah, because different teachers have different levels of experience and different kinds of classes. So this would be a conversation which, you know, perhaps this is not the forum for it, but you could actually speak to a senior teacher, speak to your teacher about it, you know, about like what is a good price for that. You know, they would be able to tell you, they would be able to guide you better in terms of the area that you're in, you know. So that I think that would be a better approach to it. Okay. Meenakshi B, abundance mentality. This Stephen Covey's offering to the corporates is already there in our ancient Vedic texts. Yes, there is enough work for everyone to succeed in India and any field across the globe. That's true. People, Sangeeta Agarwal, people still run and look for pricing classes. They don't see the quality or value of the class. Yes, Sangeeta, and they're not your students. Going to see the value of the product that you offer, they are not your students. And I think that's some, you know, your professional your confidence in self, that's when less than that, if they don't think it's quality, they want to go on the price itself, they're not your target audience. That's what I feel. Sugandha, Anshu.
Yeah, see, one thing I would
like
like
to say
add
anything
to
to
here,
that?
in the last few years, the need of the yoga has increased a lot. We all agree with it, right? It was not so much down the line before 5 years or 10 years. So as you see so many people now wanting to practice yoga, you see so many teachers as well around, because the supply and the demand has to meet now. So in terms of that, if you see, you don't have to really be feared about losing students, because everybody in the need of some form of yoga, be it because they are not physically active or they are dealing with a lot of stress, because the society is changing, the world is changing, and this world needs such kind of practices. And we are in a good space. I would just say that we are in the space which is safe, and we have a lot of opportunity and options to grow. Just have an open mindset and be confident of whatever you're offering. That's all.
Yes. Yeah, I would like to say that there are lots of people out there. It's a big universe, and you're always going to get new people or clients or whatever, students to be interested in your classes. And even if you lose some, you're going to gain some. So it's all going to even out in the process. And there's enough work out there for all of us.
Okay, Sachi, how do you your price for corporate classes, or if you teach yoga to children? Yes, what is I'm
Luvena wants to add
what
something.
is she saying?
Luvena wants to add a point, I think. Luvena, you can go on.
Hello, everyone. Namaste. Good to see the interaction, and well done, ladies. Pragya, Sugandha, and Anshu. Okay, just a quick introduction. I am Luvena Rangel. I am president of WICCI Karnataka Yoga Council. I just want to add a couple of thoughts. But first of all, brilliant questions, everyone. Brilliant discussion. And thank you for actually putting out your questions there. I'm not turning my video on because I have been on Zoom for the past 3 days, and I am not going to dress up to come up here. So I'm wearing a sweatshirt and a jersey jacket, and that's it. Okay. So all said and done, a couple of points that I just wanted to add, because I know that all of you have these questions. One, in terms of pricing, right? So when you say that you're starting off with, someone said that you're charging 500 and you're charging 600. Someone else says that you haven't charged for 2, or you haven't raised your price for 2.5 years. My question is why? 2.5 years is 365 days times 2. What have you not been doing for 2.5 years? Right? I mean, where is your sense of your own experience and your own growth? Because every day that you put in to teach adds to your own experience. You cannot be the same teacher that you were yesterday. You have grown. Okay. So one of the first things that you need to do is pause, and you need to actually say, what has my investment in all of this been? Right? And even if it has to start with numbers, just think back about to how much did you pay for your TTC? Did you pay 500 rupees for your TTC? Come on, there are so many people who actually take a loan or borrow from someone or work overtime during the month and then go to pay for it. Then they go and pay. I mean, that is all counted. You can't discount yourself by saying, hey, you know what? I paid 50,000 and now I'm paying 500 waiting for the next 20 years to come and make up for the money that I own. No, there is something called ROI. And that is called return on investment. Okay. Now we're having this conversation here, and I teach yoga philosophy. Okay. So I'm not talking about someone who's saying, hey, you need to make money. As yoga teachers, you can also do sattvic karma. Sattvic karma is where you're doing something to help the community, but you have to pay your bills, and your bills will not come by giving gyan from any of these yoga journal pages. And yoga journal is absolute BS, by the way. I need you all to unsubscribe from yoga journal immediately. Okay. So what I would like you to do is actually count back on the number of months that you have. Okay. Number of months that you've put in teaching, number of years that you've put in teaching, practicing, studying, and give yourself that time. For example, if you don't if you don't brush your teeth for 1 week, how many people will stop coming close to you and saying hello? You lose that many people, right? You need to count how much money comes in per hour of your day, which includes all the other things that you do. That is cleaning, cooking, raising your family, creating a Canva post, for inviting people to a free webinar, all of these things. All of these things are counted. How much time do you spend? You have to actually start imagining how much is the price of my voice for 1 hour. How much, or if you are in the business, and I'm using the word business very consciously here, if your job as a yoga teacher is to change people's lives through yoga, then are you saying that your person, that being on the mat in front of you, or even if it's online, is worth 500 rupees divided by 30? Is that their worth? If you can't yet find it easy to find your own worth, are you putting the price on your students down to 10 rupees for a month? What are you talking about? You know, you need to value yourself, because yoga is not menial work. Yoga is not, hey, just about any yoga teacher coming in. No, especially if you're here on this call, then I, as someone who is a senior yoga teacher, yes, and I'd say that now with pride, would want all of you to actually step out of this call saying, yes, I am a yoga teacher of substance, because I am in the sattvic business of changing people's lives. And if I'm going to change people's lives, then I need to earn enough so that I can actually live stress-free. If you're teaching people to de-stress, you should not be stressing about paying your bills. How ironic is that? You know, where you're telling people, I will teach you how to de-stress. Om, Soham meditation, everything. And then you go home and say, oh, this mahine, kitna paisa hua? I have all these bills to pay. What do I do? Electricity bill ka paisa aayega, right? If that's not going to come in, then what's the point of attending this class, right? You need to start, you need to work it backwards. This is what I need to make this month. I have this bill, I have this bill, I have this bill. Once the bills are paid, I need to buy myself a dress, right? I need to buy myself another lipstick. Fine, get that. Apart from that, I need to make sure that at least for the next month, the next 2 months, I need some more clothes, right? So in all of that, you need to also account for something that will be there for you the next month, right? And this is how you learn to price your classes. You learn to price your classes based on who you are, what your education is, what your background is, how you have to even, you know, add a little tiny percent, maybe 1% for the passion you bring to the class, right? For your sense of humor, for that uniqueness. When they come into the class and they feel excited because you've made all these jokes, then that is your niche. That is that unique, you know, that selling point of yours. You need to actually count that in. And if that is the kind of teacher you are, then yes, you know, all of you are free to attend my next asana class, because this is the kind of classes I have, right? So you need to count all of these things in to factor how to price yourselves. Do not, ladies, do not underprice yourself. If you think right now, and if I ask you, actually, I'm going to do that right now. I want all of you to put in the chat box, okay, what you think your per hour rate is for a group class. Come on, put it in the chat, and I want to see this. And I'm sorry I'm taking over from you, Pragya. You were breaking up a bit, so rest your voices a bit. I can speak 10 to the dozen. Okay. Let me see. Quick. First thought. No chat, no writing essays, just a number. 500 for Prachi. Okay. Let's see. Who else? 5K. Oh, okay. Are you charging 5K for Kavya? Where is Kavya? Are you charging 5K? No, I said per hour for a group class. Per hour for a group class. What would you charge? 600, 350 per person per. Joe, what is this? You've given me such a long essay to read. Now I have to do the math here. Okay, fine. Now, whatever it is that you're charging, okay, thank you. While you can still get that coming, I want you to add another 200 or 250 to it. That is where you should start. Because most people undercharge. Most people, and I'm saying 250 just at the top of my head, okay, off the top of my head. I need you to actually start valuing yourself for much more than you think you are, because I know from all my years of teaching and working with women, women do not value themselves correctly. And now, before I leave, I want to tell you that I have charged 40,000 rupees for an hour, and I was paid it without blinking. Okay. And I say it to you also, I charged 40,000 for an hour without blinking, and they paid it without blinking. Yes, I am a senior teacher. Yes, I have a lot of credentials and work. And it's not just credentials that I've gone and attended and I have a certificate of attendance. I do solid kick-ass work. Okay, I do it. I've got 3 kids and I make sure I do it so people know what that work is. So when you're charging, it's not about charging just because you need to pay your bills, because I said that, but also charging because you know that the work that you're doing, even if it is to teach one Surya Namaskar, is really, really good. Okay, that's it. I'm out of here, but just to let you know who was speaking with you, I'll give you a sneak preview to my face, just a sneak one. That's me. All right. See you, everyone. Bye.
All right, 40,000 rupees per hour. So now we know what to aim for. Okay. All right. Should we? I know we've gone over time. It's it's been more than an hour. Should we continue with the comment?
Yeah, I think we should wrap up in the next 2 minutes or so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I guess we do have to wrap up. I mean, it's been more than an hour, but the conversation that we've had is wonderful, and there's so many questions also about pricing in Indian audience, international audience, all of that. Please reach out to any of us personally, and we can actually discuss numbers. So I'm actually working on there's an essay that I did a few months ago on the business of yoga for the WICCI Karnataka Yoga Council, and I'm hoping to expand that. And I'm looking at things like this, numbers, how much are yoga teachers charging, how much should they be charging, and all of that at the business of yoga. So I'd be very interested in speaking to any of you. Reach out to me personally, and we can have a conversation, we can have dialogue about the issues that you're facing, and hopefully work together to resolve them, because sometimes I feel teachers are going through issues that we might not even know are happening, or a lot of us are facing an issue and we can actually put our heads together and come up with a solution. So please reach out to me. We can go through all of it, but perhaps we have like another conversation on this. I also want to know if you guys would be interested to know how to, on another session, to learn how to manage your income as yoga teachers. Should we do that as the next episode, as a next webinar? Am I breaking up? No. Okay.
Yes, you are. So just to add, and if you'd like to add that is about how to, okay, can you read that again, Pragya? Because I forgot what I wrote.
How to manage your income.
Yes, how to manage your income. How to manage your income as yoga teachers, right? Because the yoga teachers' income today is not that great in terms of how much we want it to be, but there is a way. But the reason I'm asking right now is if you want that session, then I need to see the response, because I need people at the session. So I'm not going to have the session with no one turning up, right? So you need this, you need to actually want this to happen, and let us know so we can have that session for you the next time, and we'll keep you posted on that. Okay. And Pragya, Sugandha, Anshu, please put in your social media, coordinates in chat so that everyone can connect with you if they haven't already. And I say this because you've done a brilliant job today. So please do that. Okay.
I will just want to add to it. If any of you have any topic relevant and you feel that you're confused and you don't know where to go, whom to speak to, because that can be very much happen in the yoga journey. I have felt it a lot of times, and then I've connected to a different teacher. And that's where the WICCI Forum WICCI Council is formed to help all the women teachers out there. So write to us, feel free, reach to us, and then we can definitely go along together in this journey and figure out the things as a team here. So, yeah.
All right. So should we just take a moment and just put our the information, like our like the email ID and stuff on the group, so that anyone who wants, you guys can actually just contact us. Yeah. So I'm just going to put mine. I'd also like to, plug my book now. I am the author of a book called Beyond Asanas. It's about the myths and legends behind yogic asanas. So please pick that up on Amazon, Flipkart, your local bookstore. It's available everywhere. So, and you can find me at Yoga with Pragya all over the place. Okay, Jyotsna, I have seen your question also about international audience versus Indian audience. We can talk about that. Someone else has a question about traditional yoga versus like modern yoga or aerial yoga, rope, all of that is very interesting. I think we could have a whole new session, a whole other session about that. So yeah, so I think, if everyone's done putting in their information, guys, please reach out to us. We'd really love to hear from you. We are trying to empower women yoga teachers to make this career more sustainable, and just trying to address a lot of the issues that exist today. So yeah, so please feel free to connect to us. And thank you so much for attending today's session and for giving us so much food for thought. And with that, I guess we'll take your leave. Thank you so much. Sugandha, Anshu, you want to say goodbye? Yeah.
Bye.
We've given our contact address. Thank you so much for attending. It was great fun talking to you, and I hope you got some value from this.
Yes, please follow us, and you'll know about our future sessions as well. Please follow all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Ladies, hang on for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay.